Hey, what's going on, everybody in Facebook land? Also out there on YouTube. I'm your man, Dr. Colin Solomon here, the Alpha Mu Omega chapter president here for DFW Iotas. We're truly excited that you all are joining us virtually tonight. Be prepared. There's a lot of information that's going to go on tonight. There's a lot of tips, tricks, and things that you will learn tonight. But we want you to know how to become financially free. And so, as you're logging on, as you're getting in there, we see the numbers going up. Make sure that you like, that you share, you tap in, you text your friends, tell them that we got three handsome young men on here that's going to tell you how to get that money and how to make that money, how to keep that money, and how to get to the bag. So join us as we jump on. Like, share, invite your friends. We'll give you a few minutes to do those things, and then I'll introduce everyone, and then we'll get started for tonight.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Now that you've liked, now that you've shared, make sure you grab some water. Make sure you get a pen and a piece of paper. We got some great information for you tonight. So as we get started here, I want to introduce our panelists tonight, the individuals that will be giving you these tips, these tricks on how to become financially free. With that being stated, I will start from my right, and then we will go down and over. So I have to my right one of my good fraternity brothers here. I have Mr. Dennis Brim.
Hello, everybody.
Going down, I have Mr. Hashim Malik Bey.
Good evening, everyone.
And then, last but not least, it's the man himself. Hey, it is Brother Willie Dennis.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
Good. So now, guys, you've been introduced to everyone on the team that's on the panel tonight. And so now let's really get started. So, little housekeeping rules. If you have a question, make sure that you put your question inside of the comment box there. We'll be looking at those questions from the stream. We'll be getting those questions answered for you. So if you do have questions, please make sure that you post those questions. From there, we'll make sure that you have each one of the presenters' contact information here as we get to the end of the call and the end of the video. So if you have any direct questions that you have for them personally, please feel free to reach out to them and contact them. And last but not least, make sure that if you are interested in any other programs that we do have as the Alpha Mu Omega chapter, make sure that you like, you share, and you follow our Facebook page. You can follow us on all social media platforms at DFW Iotas. That's from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and now LinkedIn. And so make sure that you like, share, and follow us for upcoming events. You don't want to miss out on them. But tonight's topic is how to become financially free. We'll discuss some good topics from investing stocks, growing your savings account, how to get out of debt, retirement plans, buying a home, buying rental property, and much more. And so from there, let's jump right into why you're here tonight. Let's talk about how to become financially free. We'll start letting Dennis Brim. He'll tell us a little about who he is, what it is that he do for a living. Then we'll go to Hashim Malik Bey, and then we'll end with Brother Willie Dennis.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Solomon. So, as you mentioned, my name is Dennis Brim. I'm the broker owner of Prestige Partners Realty. Started in real estate 23 years ago. Well, it'll be 23 years on April 14th when I got my license in the Illinois market. So, licensed currently in Illinois, Indiana, and the great state of Texas, where I now reside. Did you want me to go into anything else now, or just pass the mic?
Pass the mic.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Passing the mic to the left. So my name is Hashim Malik Bey. I live here in the Dallas area. Primarily, I'm involved in real estate, a lot of different facets of real estate, from mortgage origination to real estate development. I think a lot of what we'll talk about tonight involves real estate development. So I want to get into that and how to help you all look at opportunities outside of your W-2 salary income. I'll pass the mic.
Awesome. What's up, everybody? My name is Willie Dennis. I'm actually in the DFW area as well. So I currently work as a senior strategy consultant within the financial services space. I work with clients like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, pretty much helping them strategize ways to increase market share, go-to-market strategies, and ultimately just everything that revolves around finance and the financial services industry. So happy to be here.
Great, great. So now, guys, you have all been introduced to our panelists tonight. So let's get started with some of these questions on how to become financially free. I know people are out there that are taking notes, so make sure you got your pen and paper. And let's jump right into it. So, let's go ahead and go with our real estate guys. So, what are some things that people can do when it comes to becoming? Well, let's start with what is actually finances. What are considered finances? It's assets, it's debts. What are finances? What do we call finances?
Myself or Hashim?
Whoever wanted, take it.
All right.
Take it.
Hashim, I'll let you take that one.
That's a very, very broad question, but in short, this is kind of how I'd like to I frame it up. So when we look at income and compensation, any type of compensatory activity, whether it be trading time for money, or whether it be trading services for services, or whether it be placing capital into something else for investments, all of those things qualify as finances. So you have a couple of different things that people look at when you talk about finance. Number one is, how do you manage your personal operational capital? That means the money that you earn. How do you manage it? How do you save it? How do you grow it? And the second level is, what does your money do itself? So as an example, if you are paid by the hour or paid an annual salary, you've got a retail salary, let's say $100,000 as an example. When you look at the deductions from your paycheck, if you look at standard deductions, 15% of that is going to come home to you. So your actual take-home pay is $85,000. Most people are trying to figure out how to get the most out of that $85,000 per se. But the real thing is, if we're talking about finance, you really want to look at, okay, well, is $85,000 in this particular example enough to do what I want to do, or what my dreams and ambitions might be? Is it enough for me to cover my operating expenses? The way we do it in my household is, I'm the CEO of the house. It's my responsibility to make sure that there's enough resources and enough currency to cover all of the operational expenses, and make sure that there's enough seed capital for any emergencies, and enough money to create what we consider to be our stop work fund. So if your household takes $5,000 or $10,000 to operate, what do you have to do today so that when you are ready to stop working, that same $5,000 or $10,000 is coming in? So I don't want to go too far in the weeds now, but when we talk about finances, it really comes back to, hey, what is it that you're doing? How do you see money? What's your relationship with money? And we'll come back to it here in a minute.
Great. Anybody else want to take that one? Oh, did he do good?
You did excellent. That was well said.
He did.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Cool.
Good.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Oh, I'm Jay-Z with these numbers, man. Quit playing.
Hey, Andy did it in one take.
And in one take. No breath. So don't forget, guys, if you do have questions, make sure you post your questions in the comment section. We'll get those questions answered. So let's dive right into this thing and the topics tonight. So growing your savings. How do we start there? What are we looking at when we tell people to grow their savings? What does that look like to you guys?
Yeah, I can kind of hit on that first, Kylon. So for me, when it comes to savings, right, you want to have a plan. I think the biggest thing a lot of people go without is not having a budget in place. Ultimately, to have the amount of money you want and to be able to leverage that money, you have to have a savings plan. So what I tend to do for me and the people that I coach is I kind of give them a structured set. So ideally, whenever you get your W-2 income, like Hashim mentioned, what you want to do is try to break that down. Ideal situation would be to where 50% of your take-home income, that's going towards expenses, bills, things of that nature that you have to pay every month. 30% is living, right? So for things you want to do, going out to eat, doing additional activities, traveling, whatever the case may be. 30% of that is allocated towards that. And then that last 20%, you want to have what we like to call it is you want to pay yourself. So you want to pay yourself that 20% from that check in order to invest in your future and provide you the opportunities and the resources that you'll need to continue to grow, continue to attain that, I guess, that exit strategy, right? So for when you're not working or when you don't want to work anymore, you have that cushion there as well. I also recommend that when you're starting saving, first thing is you do is want to have an emergency fund. I think the go-to is typically 6 months of expenses. If you don't have that, that's fine. It's a work in progress, right? But 6 months is ideal, for certain circumstances such as pandemic, right, where a lot of people were laid off. By having those savings and stuff in place, it's not as stressful a time. You're still able to take care of your family. You're still able to do the things you need to do. So 6 months is ideal, 6 months of expenses. And then from there, you want to open an opportunity fund. An opportunity fund, think of it as an emergency fund 2.0, but this is your opportunity to invest in things when they come around. So for instance, real estate, right? Purchasing home, investing in property, investing in stocks. So my go-to starting out, emergency fund, first off, try to get 6 months of your expenses saved up there. From there, start saving in order to invest in your future, in order to live the life you want.
Cool. So I see we have a question right there. So I don't know if we got that question answered, but it says how much is good to invest from your income?
Oh, that's a good question. Anybody else want to take that? I can go, but if anybody else wants to take it, y'all can go for it.
Hey, look, start on it, and then I'm gonna come back and flank you on the left, and I'm gonna ride with you. So go ahead and start.
All right.
Like it.
All right, bet. So first things first, right? If your company, the company you work for, if they have any type of investment plan, you definitely want to utilize that, especially if they're doing things such as a matching, right? There's a thing called company match to where whatever you invest your dollars in, for instance, like a 401k, right? They'll match a certain percentage of that. So first things first, you want to do that. Any chance you can at obtaining free money, that's something you want to do. After that, it really just depends on what your goals are, right? So for me, I typically look at not overselling myself, right? So you want to still live comfortably. You still want to have other things in place, but I'd recommend anywhere from 10 to 20% of your income. If you're able to do that, that's what I recommend at first start now.
All right, I can ride with that. So when we talk about investing, right, for most of us, we use terms like saving, and we talk about investing, and what ends up happening in most cases is we get involved with expenses thinking that they're investments, or liabilities thinking that they're assets, right? So if you make most of your primary income is W-2, then the first thing that I would suggest is you take that money off the top if your employer offers a 401k, because that's tax deductible. It lowers your personal tax responsibility. And it's kind of like a voluntary opportunity. You guys, sorry, my dog is wants to go. So if you hear, she just whining a little bit. But coming back to this though, so think of it like this. If you want to invest, the purpose of investing is to do what? If you plant a fruit tree today, it's so that you can see fruit 10 years from now, 15 years from now, and it becomes an orchard for your family, right? Most people get involved in what I call schemes, the isms and the schisms, because they're trying to gamble with money, right? I'm gonna put $10 in a day, I'm gonna flip it tomorrow to be 25, that kind of stuff. But when you're investing, you have to grow the money. I tell folks, especially my clients, I said, look, there are no bad investments. It's only bad investors. You get into a business and you don't know what you're doing, I don't care what the circumstances are, how you're positioned in there, you're going to lose money, right? If you're getting into real estate and you say, okay, I found a deal, I'm going to buy something, I'm going to let it flip and I'm going to do this and that. If you don't know what you're doing, you don't have systems in place, you don't have the financial discipline to spend business money on business money, you're going to lose. We saw a lot of our people get caught up in the PPP loans and different stuff like that because and I'm just speaking in the African American community, we are gambling, calling it investment, right? But if we're looking at how much to invest, the question, you got to kind of go back and say, where am I trying to go in the next 6 months, the next year, the next 10 years? The question that I would ask is not how much should I invest, but when do I want to stop working for a living, right? If you want to wait till you're 67 and live on the money that's set aside with Social Security, then you don't need to invest that much. If you are wanting to live and travel while your back is still straight and your eyes are still focused, you got to be a little bit more aggressive with that. So let me give you an example. So I use, when I'm teaching my students and when I'm teaching my clients how to look at income, this is what I say. If you start off looking at life at 18, I consider all 18-year-olds rookies. So we're going to use kind of a football analogy, right? So at 18 years old, you're a rookie going into the world of finance. By the time you get to be 25 or so that 7-year period, you're going to figure out what it is that you want to do for a living. So you might go to college, you might go to trade school, you might go right into the workforce. Whatever it is, by 25, you should be kind of used to, okay, this is what it needs to this is how I make money. It's how I earn my living. And now that's your rookie camp, right? So your first quarter is really from 25 to 35. And then your second quarter is from, 35 to 45, right? At 45, most people are having that midlife crisis trying to figure out, look, I've been working 20 years. I'm either ahead of schedule, behind schedule, or I got to work something else out. After that, that third quarter is 45 to 55. And if you do stuff the way you're supposed to, in that last quarter, you're ready to go into retirement. You built up a good budget in your 401k, you've bought some assets and things in that nature. But for most folks, it takes them till they get about 35, 36, 37 before they start making the kind of money that they need to make if they intend to retire. Right. Here's the problem. None of that stuff keeps up with inflation, right? Most of the stuff that we do is retail in its application, meaning you put 10% or 6, whatever. Let's say, for instance, your employer matches 6%. You take 6% of your income, your employer matches it. You let that stuff ride out until they lay you off or the company closes or they change and get rid of the plan and the program and all that kind of stuff. You get up to retirement age and you're trying to figure out how to live in a world that the same house and the same expenses you had at $5,000 when you were making your most money, now it costs $12,000 to live, and you're trying to figure out what to do. That's not a plan that works. So if we're talking about investment, the vehicle to get there, or what I call the spaceship that you want to use to travel, has to keep up with inflation. Whatever that might be for you, real estate is not for everybody, but real estate should be for everybody. Does that make sense? I'm gonna stop there. I know I can get deep off into the weeds, but I just kind of want to dial back a little bit, make sure that makes sense.
All right. Hey, it makes sense to me. I'm not as rich as these three guys right here, but I'm on the way.
Don't be talking about nobody's money. Don't be pocket watching on
right. So we did have a couple of questions that came in there. I wanted to bring one of them back up for you. Let's see. Can you guys see the questions or no? Yeah.
We see the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the question is about index funds.
Yes.
Willie?
Yeah. I can do that one. So
that's you, Willie.
That's you.
So yeah, I mean, it depends on where you're at, right? I think index funds are a great way to get started in investing. More so like test the waters, for instance. So index funds, you have pros and cons. So typically index funds are a lot safer investments. You're still getting a taste of the market, right? So you're still able to see appreciation in the value of stocks, right, in your funds that you're investing in. The downside is usually because index funds are pretty much a hodgepodge of different companies, that can kind of limit the amount of returns you see. So for anyone who's looking to kind of play it safe, more conservative, I highly recommend index funds. I do think, depending on where you're at financially, that there are other opportunities as well. Kind of what Hashim was saying as far as looking for things that are actually going to beat inflation, right? You want your returns to beat inflation, because if you're making 3% returns and inflation is 5% per year, you're losing every year, right? So I think index funds are a good way to get started, get you kind of comfortable with the market, right? You kind of see how it ebbs and flows. You can get a feel for just the movement within the market and how your money fluctuates when different circumstances comes up, right? But ultimately, you look at index funds as kind of like a stepping stone to invest in other things.
Agreed.
Cool. So there was a question on the floor about having multiple 401ks. You know, is there a benefit into merging those 401ks together?
Who wants to knock that out? That's an easy one. I mean, the benefit is your personal management, right? So if you got an account over at TD Ameritrade, another one at Fidelity, and one somewhere else, that's just double, triple the work you have to do in terms of maintenance. The way that these things are set up to function, primarily the same way. So it's not, it's easier to put all that stuff in one bucket and let it rock out. But the real question for me is, are you looking at, if you're lucky enough to have a job that you can work all the way through to retirement, and your company is in a position where they can match or fund your 401k to see some actual returns and growth, then you're in a good spot. A lot of folks work for companies, right now the average lifespan of a company is like 17 to 25 years, right? Most of us, if we start working right out of high school, get our first real job at 25, want to retire at 65, that's 40 years, right? So that 40-year span, most of us are going to flip-flop jobs, especially in this economy. You're going to change jobs quite a bit. My suggestion is for folks, and I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just saying, if I were you, this is what I would do. I get something easy to manage like Fidelity, and let them, in terms of they're just managing the account. Your fund, in most cases, if you have an employer matching, some of it's going to be stocks, some of it's going to be mutual fund. And like Dennis said, it's that stuff is really there so that you can cover losses dealing with the market fluctuations, right? So if you saw what happened in 2022, anybody that was in the tech sector got their behind wiped last year.
For sure.
In cryptocurrency, you got smashed. I remember my Facebook feed, it's going to the moon, and people, man, they all are gone, right? And so when we talk about that, to me, multiple 401ks are really just bank account, right? The real thing is, and if I can I just get real and just kind of pull it? I wore a sweatshirt so I can thug out just a little bit. Okay.
Do your thing.
Let's be honest. For most of the people who have a direct descendancy to Africa and they were born and raised in America, the thing that we're not talking about is the wealth gap between us and everybody else, right? No. I don't care what it is that you do for a living, who you work for. In most cases, the real issue is the amount of money that you earn, the amount of money that you stack, and all the stuff that you do doesn't grow and appreciate like it does for other groups, including immigrant Africans and folks from the Caribbean, right? In most cases, people from the African-American community are boycotted to the extent that all the stuff that we're doing is really just organized gambling, or we are working on behalf of other groups of people. So if we really want to talk about growing wealth, you got to kind of pull that stuff back and say, okay, look, right now, if you look at the major groups of, if we're using ethnicity as a way to categorize people, right? So African Americans are right here, Hispanics are right here, whites are right here, and Asians are up here, right? So what does that mean? That means for every dollar that people of African descent earn, white folks earn $10, Asians earn 13, Hispanics earn 3.5. right? So you have to work and maintain your stuff harder in the same function just to try to keep pace. So we're not going to W-2 that stuff to there's never going to be any equality with W-2 income, right? The stock market is not designed for retail buyers to make up the gap, right? I don't care what you have, unless you have insider information, you don't have a shot, right? They tell you it's against the law to do insider trading. But if you ask the people that are billionaires, they're not making no moves without insider trading, right? Those laws are for you and me, not for them. So if we get real about the conversation of money, and we really should get real about the conversation of money, you got to look at stuff that, first of all, uses, what do we call that? We want to be, is it ambiguous? Right? You want to be in a situation where people are not using your race and your complexion against you. They're not using the spelling of your name or the religion that you follow against you. They're not using your fraternity or sorority against you. You want people to see that if you have something to add to the marketplace, you get some value for it and you get paid for what you know. In the work that I do, right? I got 27 years in financial industries, right? And the stuff that I do, I go into companies and I tell them, this is how you make money. This is where the fat is. This is how you make this thing move forward, right? I can go down all the banks that you can think of, Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. I've worked for all of them in positions to look at this stuff and say, first of all, ain't no such thing as gentrification. Why? Because people can only buy what's for sale. People are not using race to discriminate. The banks just happen to have enough information to know that Black folks are paid less than other people, regardless of their qualifications. When I'm doing mortgage contracts, I'm looking at people's documents. I'm looking at their credit. I'm looking at their income. I'm looking at savings. I'm looking at their assets. And I'm telling you, I don't care how much money we make, we are nowhere in the conversation when it comes to really building wealth and assets. So I know we like to talk about this stuff and we want to act like Black people are tan white folks, but listen, folks, that ain't the deal at all. The way we need to move, if we're talking about building wealth and becoming financially free, is you got to have the appetite to do the hard work and the heavy lifting up front. What does that mean? That means that we have to come to a conclusion individually and collectively that we're going to spend less than we earn and we're going to do more than we're paid so that we can experience more than what we have, right? I just wanted to say that. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna back up. You know, I get long-winded and I start remixing and freestyling on the mic. So
One take. And you know
So-
what? I'm in the interest of time, I'm gonna jump right into April's question. April Brewer, how could one get started in real estate with not much money and experience on the topic? Well, I would say everyone needs somewhere to live. You know, you're either leasing or you're purchasing. So the best way to get started is where you live, purchase a home. And the way you get started with that, with little to no money, it depends on your situation. Some people are veterans, prior military service. Those people, you can buy properties with no money down, zero down. You have other programs such as FHA, first time homebuyer programs, which is 3.5% down. And there are other specialty programs out there too, if you're not a vet, where you can get in close to no money down. And I always say start with where you're going to live. Then once you purchase that property, sometimes there are rules in place where you got to stay there a certain amount of years before you can rent it out. Or if you're in the HOA, sometimes they want you to stay there a certain amount of time before you rent it out. But then you turn that property into a rental property once you're ready to move on somewhere else. So you buy a property, which is your primary, you get in no money down, or a little money down, and then you decide to rent that out. Now that becomes an income property because you'll be able to rent that out. You'll be able to get proceeds from that on a monthly basis, and then you can use that to offset your rent or mortgage from your next place. So that's one way to get in, you know, little to no money down. You could always use other people's money, OPM. That will that's more on the investment side. People pool their money together. They buy investment properties. That's a way to get in. Then you also have REITs, which is a real estate investment trust, where they pool together properties on the stock market, and you can invest in those properties on the stock market and get a return or a dividend on that. So it's several ways. You could always get in touch with me offline, and I give you more detail on that. And Eric, I see what you said. You've been thinking about getting in real estate for a while. So I mean, there's many ways to do it. Some people buy properties and flip them, rehab them. That's another way to get into it. Again, and you can do it collectively with a group, and it doesn't require as much downstroke when you do it that way. So many ways to do it.
So let me ask you. Let me ask you this question though. So I want to ask. I really want to ask. So we talked about this. This is a conversation I think we've kind of had offline. So is it smart for minorities, if you live in an apartment, buy your home, let someone lease your home instead of you living there while still staying in the apartment? Is that a smart financial choice? The apartment you can afford, the home you may be approved for, but it's out of your reach. Is it smart to allow some to immediately turn that into a rental property without that being your actual home?
Okay.
In my opinion, it's always smart. And I see Jason's comment cautioning April to be careful.
I'm gonna deal with Jason. Can I deal with Jason?
Okay. You know what? I'll let Hashim go first.
Let the old man get out here and get my stuff off, because I have to go to bed after we get finished. Right? All right. So listen. Okay. So here's my personal philosophy on real estate. Now, Dennis is absolutely correct for people that want to get into real estate. The in terms of what it costs out of pocket, what it costs in terms of qualification, buying a house that you live in or buying a house as your primary residence makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, right? But I'm in this economy and I'm trying to get 40 acres and a mule. I'm trying to get all the stuff that my ancestors didn't get, and I need to live like the Duttons. So I'm not using that. This is how we rocking. We rocking out like this. We use a concept in general called 4-3-2-1. If you don't own a home, or if it's been 3 years since you owned a home, in both scenarios, you're a first-time home buyer. When the mathematics makes sense, it makes sense to buy a multifamily first, fourplex if you can, right? If you live here if you live in the Dallas area or some of these areas, Dallas is not a multifamily city, but the further you go east, right, and northeast, people are into multifamily, right?
Yeah.
Here's the cool thing about going the way I'm about to lay it out. So, all right, so we're going to use easy math. We're going to say $100,000 a door. So for a fourplex, we're talking about $400,000, right? Now, when you go in and you want to buy a property for the first time and you're a first-time home buyer, with the interest rates being high as they are, now we're starting to see banks and other lending institutions do 100% financing. They hadn't done that before, right? You had to bring at least 3.5% to the table. When you're buying a primary residence and you're buying 4 doors, you bring 3.5% to the down payment. You got to take a landlord class. And guess what? You get to use 75% of the other 3 doors if you have leases as a part of your personal income, right? So if I'm buying a fourplex and I make $60,000, I only really qualify for enough for a single family residence, right? But if I'm buying a fourplex, I get to take the retail value of the rent on those other 3 doors, and I get to combine that to my qualification on income.
Yep.
Now I got 3 additional doors for rent. And guess what, folks? In most cases, if you know how to buy, they're paying your mortgage as well. You take care of your landlord policy, you take care of your of the taxes, and you're rolling. Why does this make sense? You start off with income coming in, and the property is an asset and not a liability, right? The next property you buy, and this is why I'm saying this. If you buy a single family residence, you're going to get 100% financing, or you're going to get 3.5% financing, 5% financing. And when I'm talking about 5% down, that kind of stuff. Once you own a primary residence, that very next property you buy, 20% is what you got to bring to the table, right? So if we're talking 20% on a $400,000 asset, how much money is that? That's 80 grand, right? But how much is 100%? You're just paying closing costs, no money out of pocket. And you get to add the 75% of the lease amount for the first year. After that, you got to do taxes and all that kind of stuff. We're not talking about that tonight. But the point we're making is we say buy a fourplex first, buy a triplex next, buy a duplex after that. You'll have enough money after you buy those first three assets, man. You're gonna be living in an $800,000 house instead of a $200,000 house, right? We flip this stuff upside down and say make your money first, then you get to have a house that you want. Dr. Solomon, does that answer your question?
It does. So let me ask you this. So we have people that,
but I didn't deal with Jason yet. I'm gonna deal with him.
Right. So what about the individuals like, most of us on here have our own businesses. They have LLCs, they have nonprofits. Should financially free, is it smart to do it in your own name or do it in your LLC or your nonprofit name?
You're talking about the properties, if we're talking about real estate as an asset, listen, there's way more advantage. Now, this is not what the question you're asking is not a 101 or 100 level class. That's a 500 level class, right?
So they need to come back for that one.
I'll give you a 100 level answer. All right. So it makes sense to buy in a corporate name only if your corporation is filing taxes, right? And paying taxes on the money that you file. Most of us, if you're smart, right? This is what I call a Trumpism, right? Donald Trump made $700 million and paid $750 in tax, right? I paid $25,000 in tax and I still owe the IRS, right? So I have to flip my whole situation around, and that's just me personally. I got more money. It's more money in my household, right? So depending on how you are framed up in the economy, you can do a lot more stuff with the tax code and stuff like that, right? So my answer is, if your business is a hobby that you're using to write down your taxes, don't buy no property like that, right? The reason is when you go to buy property, you can't tell a lie to the mortgage man and the truth to the tax man, or you can't tell the truth to the tax man and lie to the mortgage man. They talk to each other. They're in a relationship that you don't know nothing about, right? So to make this stuff work, you gotta be honest and put all your STDs on the front and say, look at here, I was out here I was in the road doing this and that and this and that. To make this stuff work, you start a business that's making money, that's paying taxes, then you can put assets in its name. You can put now you can start a business to buy property, and there's money available right away. You don't even have to qualify for it. If it's income property, right? They got hard money loans. There are private institutions, pension plans, individuals, institutions that will give you 60, 70, 80% of the value of a property as long as you hold it in the corporate name, right? Because the thing is, they don't want to make it easy for you to buy a house so you can lay up and chill and do the stuff that you was doing at the W-2 situation, right? So with that in mind, to answer I guess I'm giving you probably a little bit more than what you asked for. The answer is yes, but tax returns and how you file and how you do the income is where everything really matters. That's all I got. I'm not saying anything else on this because I didn't stole all the oxygen off Willie's situation. He got a lot to bring, and I didn't stole everything, so I'm shutting up.
No, you good, man.
So Willie, what's your take on this? What's your take on
in regards to real estate?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm a big proponent of 4-3-2-1 strategy for sure. Mm-hmm. That's actually what I'm working on personally.
As a matter, be clear.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, literally, like, just going off that same note, right? When you think about having to put 3.5% down on a $500,000 property, right? Just to piggyback off of what Hashim was saying, for FHA, you can put down 3.5%, right? So you put down at 3.5%. on a $400,000 property, you're paying around $15,000, right, for the down payment. Then when you move to the next home, you can actually flip and do the FHA again after you've been in the home for a year. So if you do that and scale down from 4, 3, 2, 1, you'll be able to build your wealth a lot quicker. 2, you'll have income generating assets a lot quicker. And by the time you get to that single home, those other assets should be paying for your single home to live how you want to live. So that's a beautiful thing with that versus you doing it the other way to where every time you scale up, right? If you buy a $300,000 home, 3.5% interest, right? You're paying close to around $10,000 down payment. Once you scale up, guess what? That duplex is going to cost more. That triplex is going to cost more. So even though you may be able to get a 3.5% down on each of those, you're kind of hurting yourself in a sense, right? Because you're going to be end up paying more and more and more to leverage up. So the best way to do it is to start, if you're able to, is to start fourplex, triplex, whatever works, and then scale your way down and ultimately house hack your way to financial freedom for the most part. So.
That was far more articulate. See, that's why I should shut up. That's the way it's supposed to be explained at the academic college level, right? In the professional grades, that's how you explain it. I'm thugged out, so I can't give it to you wrong.
So, did we ever get Jason's question answered?
So, all right. So Jason was making a statement looking at interest rates in this environment, right? And so here's the thing about interest rates. I'm old enough to remember when it was 11, 14, 15, 18% was a regular interest rate with good credit. Right? The interest rates where they are now, they're higher than they have been in the last, actually higher than they have been since the crash that took from 2008 to 2012. When we were at 2%, 3%, all that kind of stuff, that is the anomaly. Where we are now is where the market is. This is what the market has always been, right? Now, my dad is a real cool Vietnam vet. Let me tell you what he said. He said, man, don't let taxes keep you from making no money, and don't let the interest rate keep you from getting in the market and making some dough, right? Jason, I disagree. I agree with you, and I disagree at the same time. Because here's the thing. If you don't market, what is it going to look like next year? What's it going to look like the year after, right? Because the interest is just a part of the payment, but the equity is what you're missing. Because the price of houses is not going down, right? Not in Dallas, right?
Absolutely not.
They're not going down. So $100,000 house today is worth $120 next year, right? And the difference in payment is look, it's $6.42 per 100,000. Per thousand, right? So when you talk about 6% versus 8%, right? That sounds like a lot of money because that's that social stuff that we're talking about. When I'm talking about business money, I'm gonna take 8% if I'm making $300 additional in cash flow, right? If I'm getting that piece of that equity, because once I hit 20% in equity, I hit 30% equity. Now I can go to the bank and say, listen here, I need 10% of the money that I have in equity so I can go buy some more stuff, right? If you don't own nothing, you can't do nothing. So I'm like, look, we have to stop buying shoes, buying purses, having fun, and get in here and start buying some dirt because they ain't making no more dirt, folks. That's where I'm at with it.
So I'm glad you said that. You said we have to stop buying shoes, clothes. So becoming financially free. You know, this past year, everybody was wheels up. All the ladies was in Miami this summer. Everybody right now taking trips to Dubai. If I'm stepping on your toes because you got your Dubai trip planned, my bad. But so what are your thoughts? Is that really becoming financially free? You know, everyone is saying, hey, travel, live life. But you just said something. They're not selling any more dirt. They're not creating more dirt. Trips are going to be there. Plane trips are going to be there. So if we say, are we saying live life, or are we saying, hey, take a year or two, really get yourself in a financial place, get that fourplex, you know, get the car that you want, and do everything now and then take the trip? Or can we do it simultaneously?
I'll take that one. I think they're both important, but whenever you come in with a plan, whenever you're prepared, that's going to trump the play. I mean, you have to rest. Everything has a rhythm. The sun goes down at night. It comes up in the morning. You always need to rest. To grow. So I will say there's a time to take the trips, time to recuperate, and to go at it again. But you definitely got to be able to fund those trips. You need that seed money first. And I wanted to say this, so it's not exactly related to your question, but is summing up what Hashim said. I like to use the term that time in the market is better than trying to time the market. And I'll say it again: time in the market trumps trying to timing the market. So instead of waiting, trying to wait it out to rates drop, you're better off getting in. And if rates drop, you can refinance, when the rates drop. But like he said earlier, building that equity piece is more important. So I hope both questions were answered with that.
It was. So this is something that I think I seen it on another question. So is it better? I think you actually said it earlier, Dennis, about those where individuals come together and they help finance projects or they help finance properties. Would you say it's a smart financial choice that if, let's say, it's 3 kids, a parent has 3 kids, 3 of those children have good jobs, they're making good money. Is it a smarter financial choice for those 3 children to come together and buy a multiplex property or buy or try to create their own apartment complex or something like that to change how their financial future for their family is looking?
Hopefully, if they can work together as they should be able to, then it's always best to put your collective talents together if you can pull that off. But not everybody can do that, So just keep that real.
Cool.
So if I can piggyback in here, I'm definitely the guy that nobody invites to the Christmas dinner because that's the first thing I start with, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have children and those children have friends and they're working, whether they're working, retail or whatever the case, all of them should be leaning towards purchasing assets, right? Income producing assets. And I'm working with, in fact, I go out across the country and I look at cities that have underperforming assets. I bring my team in and we pounce, right? We don't leave anything for anybody that lives there to get after we get done, because my point is, if you didn't see it and I found it, it's mine, right? We manifest destiny on this stuff for real. And so we have folks that come to us and say, hey, we want to invest, we want to do this and that. And I ask them, do you have any children? What are their ages? And I'm saying, okay, look, if you don't have them a part of this conversation, I'm not dealing with you. We play too much when it comes to building generational wealth, right? What is generational wealth? That means what I have today, when I pass, it passes on to you. That doesn't mean that I'm giving you a lump sum of cash. It doesn't mean that you have an asset that's paying your bills. You know how to operate a business, and that business is collecting rent and buying and growing and scaling this business, right? So when we look at friends and family members, the very first thing that I think parents should do, if the parent is doing the stuff that they're supposed to, and what do I mean by that? You're paying your bills, you're keeping your credit straight, you're keeping your debt down, right? If you have a credit card and that credit card has 5, 10, 15 years of on-time payment and service, put your kid on it when they're 16. So when they're 18, they got trade lines and they have finance. They're prudent with their finances so that they're in a position that they can qualify for a loan from an institutional bank, right? You get their friends, because the thing is, look, you don't want your friends running around with a bunch of broke people with bad credit and this and that in the first place. So you want to monitor who they spend their time with, right? What do they say? I think Robert Kiyosaki said that you are the average of the sum total of the people who you spend the most time with. If you hang around broke people, don't call me. I have nothing to talk about. right? I don't have nothing to talk in. Listen, everybody that calls my phone, as soon as they pick up the phone, I turn the timer on. 30 minutes is the most that you get, period. Right? If I'm charging my open rates, I'm $625 an hour. And I go up every January, right? Why? Because the price of living goes up. And my thing is, I want you to know I'm not going to allow you to waste my time, so I'm not going to waste yours. When it comes to building assets and building wealth, we spend too much time playing and being nice and all this kind of stuff when we really need to be about that business, right? So the thing that I'm looking at to your question, Solomon, is this: if you have kids that are approaching high school, in high school, you want to be looking at their people in their circle. You want to look at their make sure that their credit is on point, so that they will be in a position to qualify. And you put them jokers in a multi-family unit right off the start, right? You teach them how to be property managers and to be landlords, right? So that you don't have to bring them back home with their bad habits later on because they didn't fail the relationship and they don't have half on the rent and all this kind of stuff, right? It's a business. All of this running a family is a business, and we got to treat it like that. Does that answer the question? I know I'm way out there, but
It is.
yes.
So there, I guess I identifying kind of where you are in that statement. Willie, Dennis, jump in there. Hashim can come back. So do you feel? I know people who have purchased homes for their children as they're 13, they're 16 gift. Like, what is better? Is it better to throw a kid a party or buy them a home, their first home?
Really, you wanna?
Oh, y'all want me to take that?
I mean,
uh,
The
we
one
can
with
have
no
our
kids.
opinions on
The
it.
one who has no children.
right. I mean, it's the future, right? You invest in your future. We talk about generational wealth all the time. Something that we all strive for. I think one thing that we kind of fail to realize sometimes is each generation has more opportunity to grow and build. Um, from where my grandparents were, right, to where my parents were to where I am. I think every one of us should look at that as, okay, now that I'm here and I'm provided these resources, it's my responsibility to set the next generation up to do what they need to do to achieve financial freedom and to start out in a better spot than I started out, right? So, I mean, if you have the capabilities to do it, I think that's the first thing. That's a no-brainer. You don't want to waste your stuff, your money, your resources on material things that may or may not hold value, right? Investing, right? And I mean, you can look at this in pretty much all facets of life. If you're able to establish and build and put things in your name, into your family's name, that's literally you building your legacy, right? And then we can go into like, I mean, that what Hashim said, that's the 500 level course. We're really talking about generational wealth within families, talking about trust and estate planning, all this other type of stuff, right? But ideally, you want your family members to be in a better position than you were, and if you have the resources available to you to put properties in their name, to put assets in their name, when hard times do come about, right, they'll be okay. You'll be okay. And I think that's the most important thing that you have to consider whenever you're thinking about making those type of purchases.
Man, nothing to add to that.
Nothing to add to that. Well, guys, we're down to the last wire here. I'm going to give each one of you some time, kind of throw something out there, say what you need to say. Let's make sure that people have your contact information and open it up. If there's any questions that you have for these guys as we're getting ready to close out, let's ask that question now. Let's put your question in the chat there. We'll get it answered for you. I definitely think this has been a great kickoff. We'll be coming back to this soon. We'll be doing multiple of these. We'll take them from not only being virtual but to in person, to some one-on-one conferencing. We're going to make sure that we do add a tax guy next time. We have some tax individuals that's coming in. We also have some investment individuals coming in, and so we're just going to keep making this better and better. 2023 is going to be your year to become financially free. Right now, give it to you, Dennis. Let you kind of say some things as we close out, and we'll take it to Hashim and then Willie, and then we'll close out and head out for the night.
Okay, I'll just speak a little bit on the topic you just left off with. I think more so than buying, your kid a property, you want to teach them the process. You don't want to rob them by just buying them a property. It's more important that they understand the whole process behind, all the steps involved. So it's always good to get a mentor, a professional to guide if you don't know yourself, or even if you do know, whatever you do is always good to get a mentor, and have somebody assist you with it that's a professional, that's their expertise. So that's my 2 cents on it. I saw my name, number. Okay, there it is. The screen there. You need to contact me. There you go. 955 Brim 2746.
All right, folks. Sorry about that. I don't know if you hear my dog is excited right now, so I apologize for that. But just to follow up, what's already on the table is the process is everything. Right? If you hand a kid a stack of money and you never talk about how you built it, how you protect it, any of those things, you're not doing yourself a service, and you're definitely not doing them a service, right? So I totally agree with that in terms of how we should build stuff, right? On our side of the planet, the stuff that we do is our team specifically looks for opportunities. The thing that we scour the whole entire country for is undervalued and neglected resources, right? Nobody wants to be homeless. People need to live somewhere. So we look for those kinds of things. And the thing that we want to do is we try to create opportunities for people to partner with us and allow us to create a vehicle for you. So just as an example, we got an open call out right now. We're looking for investors that want to come in. They put in $5,000 in terms of seed capital, cover their down payment for, we're going to pick up to 20% for their investment project. We're going to build a triplex for them. We're even going to manage the property and lease it up for them. Because the thing is, I need people to get their appetite wet for real estate investing so that we can spread this thing around the country, so that when you're driving around the community where you live and you see a house you see a house that is in bad shape, you look at it and you do the investigation to figure out who owns it. And if somebody owns it, can you buy it? If the city owns it, what does it take to get it? Taking advantage of the tax sales and different kinds of things like that. So we want to make sure that we give people the apparatus to create some type of generational wealth, and generational wealth, and we want to make sure it's family oriented. That's it.
I mean, I honestly don't have much to say. Would like to say thank you to everybody who attended. This shows that you're investing in yourself. You're trying to learn, right, and gain more knowledge. One thing throughout my journey that I've learned, I'm continuing to learn, is you can't do everything by yourself, right? You need professionals in place. You need people that know the things that you don't, in order to continue to grow and build. So just keep that in mind as you go along your financial journey. Be open, be able to listen. Don't be ashamed if there's something that you don't know. There's always opportunities to learn and grow, like I said. So, yeah, I mean, with that being said, man, we thank you guys. And if you want to reach out to me, I do personal finance coaching, also within the financial services space as well. So, yeah, if questions, curious about anything, definitely feel free to reach out.
Cool. With that being said, we end it right there on time, guys. Hey, I want to thank everybody again who took the time tonight to chill with us for an hour. We'll continue to do these throughout the year. I think we're going to have some great opportunities to meet you all in person here coming up soon, working on a new location to be able to do that for you. So if you do have those questions, those concerns, even after this call, feel free to hit us up on our social media at DFW Iotas. The website, the new website, we're excited about that, is coming soon, which will be dfwiotas.com. So make sure that you continue to follow us for more information. Please look look out for the next one. We also want to invite you out this upcoming Monday. We will be walking in the Grand Prairie Martin Luther King Day Parade. So if you want to see some Iotas out and about in your community, definitely check us out there in Grand Prairie at the MLK Parade. We want to say right now, early happy Founders Day to the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta on tomorrow, as well as following that, you will have the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha, as well as the ladies of Zeta Phi Beta sorority. So we want to just go ahead and get our early happy Founders Day out to everybody and get those things in and out the way. If you have anything else for us, guys, before I end, I'm going to give you the floor one more time. From there, if you are interested in becoming a Theta man or becoming a member of Iota Phi Theta, please follow us on social media. Our new informational flyer is out there. We look forward to having you all join us for that in person, as well as February events will be dropping later on this week. Well, the week is ended, so they'll be dropping tomorrow. So check us out for our February events coming up on tomorrow, as well as the rest of the events that we're having this month. If you guys have any other questions or concerns, like I said, hit us up right there. Anybody else got anything before we head out? None? All hearts and minds clear?
Man.
Well, hey, we thank y'all for joining us. We'll see y'all next time. Make sure you tune in.
Thank you.